Phu Bai Ecotourism and Modern Spiritualism, English translation of Phu Bai Du Lich Sin Tai Va Tam Lin Hien Dai. Dear uncles, relatives and Na Fan. Today we would like to answer Na Fan's question. After Na's nephew read the article and listened to our video titled, Phu Bai, the Great Country Village, Na's grandson asked the question the group, Noi Kan Phu Bai, as follows. I would like to ask Phuong Go and Phula, Phu Bai Village. Are we eligible to establish an ecotourism area combined with spirituality? This is a very good question, so we would like to share in common. This sharing is mainly based on our limited understanding through the process of researching, learning, and experiencing, so if there is something unsatisfactory, we ask for your understanding. On the contrary, if there is something good, it should be widely shared to everyone for reference, research, and discovery. Dear relatives and Na Fan. The question about our village's ecotourism and spirituality, in May 2020 was asked by 3 young people, and we shared a brief overview in a video with you. Title: Clarifying Ancestral History Part 2. Today we would like to share a separate video on this topic, and mainly separate the 2 old and new spiritual concepts, according to modern science. Now it is time to share the content of the first part of the question, which is ecotourism. In our opinion, Phu Bai Village currently has geographical conditions, natural and man-made landscapes very suitable for ecotourism. For example, Phu Bai has a field of more than 2,200 acres, located to the east of the village, outside the National Highway 1A. The field is divided into 2 wings called Bao Dong and Bao Te. Between the 2 wings lies a river that digs into the main river of the village, also called Ku Jiang. All the water from this river flows into Dai Jiang River. South of Bao Te is the 10th ward of the village. This is a separate village, very convenient for traveling by waterway. Phu Bai field is currently planted with wet rice 2 times a year, that is the winter-spring crop and the summer-autumn crop. Therefore, Phu Bai field always has 2 seasons of fresh green rice, gracefully bending in the light breeze in the morning, or in the warm noonday sun, fragrant with the scent of rice flowers drying and blooming, captivating so many flocks of bees and butterflies. Dan Chen is the 2 seasons of ripe rice. The golden rice grain is full, resting its head in the afternoon sun, to herald the good harvest and bring fullness of rice and warm clothes for every upcoming villager. In the distance, there are fields of fragrant sticky rice, which is the reputation of Phu Bai village with delicious sticky rice from time immemorial. In the good days of late spring or early summer, the Phu Bai field is a wonderful picture of the countryside in the afternoon sun. Outside the field, to the east is the Dai Jiang River. Hugging the embankment of the field is more than 1 kilometer long. Dai Jiang is a very convenient waterway for the travel of Phu Bai villagers. From this part of the river upstream, back to the north is to Nkuu Hiu, and down to the south is in Nong village. Then to Truoi village, to Ha Trung Lagoon, to Tam Jiang Lagoon, and then to the East Sea, Bien Dong. In the village, there are 3-room and 2-wing houses. Has a spacious garden, with fruit trees, very suitable for tourists to visit and enjoy. Especially, there is Ki Loi Lake with deep and clear water, suitable for tourists to swim on the lake in the summer, or just enjoy the scenery and fish. Particularly for Phu Bai River today, in the summer, the water in the upstream section is often dirty, because of the influence of industrial zones. In terms of hills and mountains, there are quite high mountains, which can make tourism of the type of discovery, or thrills. For example, Dong Nei Mountain, Donggan Mountain in the northwest of the village. People climbing to the top of these 2 mountains will see the surrounding areas such as Nam Hua, A Sao, A Luoi, Hieu City, Hong Tui, Pu Vang, Phu Loc. Next is the Sun Fen Mountain area to the west. Here there are many traces of gardens, belonging to the buffalo, cow, and rice farming farm of a great descendant, belonging to the Nia Hung lineage, Vong Nguyen Phuc Ki district. This area now belongs to Phu Sun Commune. Far to the southwest near Trong Son or Dong Tik, Mo Tao, and Mo Tro Mountains. Mo Tro Peak is very high. Standing on the top one can also see neighboring districts such as Phu Loc, Phu Vang, Hong Tui, etc. In the past, the people of Phu Bai village used to work as woodworking, burning coal, gathering rattan, etc., thinking they often climbed to the top of Mo Tro Mountain to see all the surrounding areas. And there is a folk song as follows: climbing up Mo Tro Cave, looking at 3 hamlets with many a widows, trio len hun dong Mo Tro. Go ve ba zom nu o go a chong. In Dong Tik there is also Mo Tao. Those are the word has not been deciphered specifically, so we can always understand that this mountain area, according to the prediction of the founders of Phu Bai village, has a very large copper deposit still deep in the ground. And the area in the southeast direction has gold. This is what the villagers of Phu Bai need to pay attention to and follow well. Now, I would like to share the most important part about spiritual tourism. This section has 2 main contents. The first is the visible symbols, representing the spiritual element according to the old concept. The second part is that the invisible phenomenon represents the doctrine of faith about spirituality according to modern science. Now, let's talk about the tangible spiritual symbol of Phu Bai village. Village Phu Bai currently has more than 20 houses of worship of different families and clans, most of which are built in the style of old Ruang houses, including 3 compartments, 2 wings, wooden house slopes, columns, trusses, crosses, and uppers. Carved pattern. Inside the temples, there are altars that are also carved with patterns and things, painted with vermilion or mother of pearl, looking dignified and splendid. Especially, the shrine worships of Gai Bon Tho, village founder, Gai Du Bon Tho, Gai Tung Bon Tho Va Gai Kai Gun Go Dai Tun. In front of the shrine to worship them, there is an adoring horse. Especially inside the temple of Gai Bon Tho Than Hoang, in addition to the magnetic items, there are also costumes belonging to the great officials of the court such as red robes and green robes. Next to the temple to worship them, is the temple of worship of the families, clans. Also very majestic and ancient. In the center of the village, there is a very large, majestic and magnificent communal house. The village communal house is the place to worship the village god. The first village pioneers, Kai Gun, second village pioneers, Kai Ka, the sages, martial arts. The village communal house is also the place to meet and discuss important matters of the village. In addition to the communal house, there is also a village pagoda built during Jia Long's reign in Hamlet 7. In 1965, the village had an additional Buddhist recitation hall, built next to National Highway 1A. Belongs to Ward 3. In 2016, the Buddhist Hall of Remembrance this road was greatly restored, lasting until 2018, completed with a large and spacious temple, and named it Phu Bai Pagoda. In addition, the village also has a Catholic church, next to National Highway 1A, to the east in Ward 5. The village also has a shrine to worship Mrs. Tan Phai and Tuthan Exa in the 2nd Ward. The village also has a temple to worship Van Ton and Vo Ton in Ong Trong land, next to the temple of Hamlet 7. In the 2nd village, there is a temple to worship Thien Y, A, and Na. In the past, villages also had shrines to worship the gods of each village. There is also a shrine to worship Quan Ton De Quan in Ong Bai land on the border with An Nong village. All the places mentioned above are visible symbols according to the old spiritual concept. Now is the special theoretical part of modern spiritual faith doctrine that we have successfully implemented in both theoretical and practical aspects, based on the basis of science and the cooperation of spiritual gods of Fubai village. Ladies and gentlemen, relatives and friends, the 4 words of modern spirituality is about a doctrine of faith based on modern science that has deciphered the human soul as an electrical wave, and also proved the currents that electric charge has 3 characteristics: positive charge, negative charge, and neutral charge. From there, we understand that all those who have brought a human being have an electric core system when they live, and that power system emits space in an important part of the brain, which science has proven to be brainwave system. At death, the brainwave system is preserved in the high and low layers in space, depending on the positive charge, the neutral charge, or the negative charge. Thus, modern spirituality is the most specific and most scientific doctrine of the faith, because humans are capable of receiving the Holy Spirit's sympathies, and then pass it on to others so that they can feel the presence of the Holy Spirit. Presence of the Holy Spirit according to their need. Modern spirituality is far from the old concept of spirituality, because old spirituality is completely based on theory with abstract proofs, lacks scientific basis, lacks reality, making many people believe in spirituality blindly. That is the reason leading to delusion, superstition. A sad reality of today's society is that many researchers in the field of spirituality still have old thinking, so they say they are studying metaphysical phenomena about spirituality. This mistake is no different from the truth. Albert Einstein's mistake to say that the electron is a metaphysical object with position, mass, area, and battery measurement. So arguing with Niels Bohr, ultimately Einstein failed. So in this 21st century, who wants to study and learn the truth about spirituality, they must understand that spirituality is an invisible phenomenon circulating in space in the form of electric waves. Dear uncles, relatives, and Na fan. After Na listened to the video of Fu Bai the Great Country Village, Fu Bai Leng KV Dai, Na felt that Fu Bai village now had enough New Age spiritual elements. So she raised a question about spirituality for us, looking for suggestions, explanation for further clarification. So our first suggestion to Na and the young people: the most necessary thing right now is that we have to find qualified personnel to practice communion with the Spirit, or sympathize ancestors have passed away. Because only individuals who meet the above 2 conditions can meet the demanding needs of modern spiritual tourism. This incident during 2020. We have found a few friends who have the ability to communicate with God and spirits, and we have talked to them privately. If conditions are favorable, we will help. They are the most effective way to do sympathies that we have experienced, but unfortunately have not been able to do. The good news is that around the end of 2021, we learned that 2 more friends have the ability to communicate with Holy Spirits. It's Go Phuoc Hung and Na Fan. After listening to 3 videos, we talked about historical dreams, the main content of which was about the epiphany of the village god, the god of the village, who was also the ancestor of the Go Phu Bai family, guided, showing the next generation clearly the ancestral origin. So, friend Go Phuoc Hung immediately understood this fact. So he warned a minority of descendants of the Go family in Phu Bai village that they must keep their ancestral roots. A person with a high level of education. If you ask ordinary questions like Hung, but understand things that are not normal, it is thanks to the cooperation of spirituality. Meanwhile, there were descendants with a high level of education such as bachelor's and doctor's degrees without any understanding of spirituality, who followed bad guys and strangers to distort the history of their ancestors. The second person is Na Fan, an ordinary person, but has very profound comments about spirituality in the history of Phu Bai village, This is also an element of the type of person who has the right background in implementing cooperation. Holy Spirit. Dear friends that we mentioned in 2020 and you too this year, here are a few of our own personal thoughts, through the process of experiencing communion with the fairies. Fu Bai Village Group. During that experience, we have made about 50 videos, and some articles, now only presented in a few pages, so they only have special symbolic properties as follows. First idea. In the beginning, when you first receive sympathy, your friend will go through a period of quite difficult and arduous testing, both mentally and physically. But after a short time you will return to normal. When your person is more fragrant, more discerning, and able to know things that in ordinary life you cannot know. The second idea is that when you have clearly felt your core system, there has been a reception of another electric core system in space through the electrical brainwaves, and then transformed your whole body, making you a different person. Normally, that's when you can afford it, the ability to exchange, to relay the synthetic electrical energy in your body through the third person by vital points on their head, like the soft cartilage in the anterior fontanelle. You bring your hands in on the front fontanelle of the other person, but remember to keep your distance, not close to that position. Because then the other person must sit quietly and close his eyes in the form of meditation. It is a necessary principle of sympathetic communication that we have acquired through experience. The third idea is that you must learn some of the most basic doctrines of the great religions that have shown people the way to find the truth of spirituality. For example, in the Flower Adornment Sutra of Buddhism, it is clear, necessarily created mind only, that is, all things are created by the mind. Therefore, those who follow Buddhism but do not have Buddha in their hearts will never see the Buddha, nor will they ever be enlightened by the Buddha's wisdom. Just like those who follow Christianity, but without God in their hearts, they will never be enlightened by the God. Their minds are enlightened by the Holy Spirit. That's why in the hymn of the Living Lord there is a verse. God where to live, God lives in this heart. Chua Song Do Now, Chua Song Trong Long Ne. In Confucianism, Confucius taught, the spirit is not spiritual in the self, that is, if your mind believes in a God, you will have God's help. On the contrary, if you don't believe in a God, then it is very difficult for you to get it. What premonitions come into your life? As for Taoism, Lao Tzu clearly explained that man himself can live because of the harmony of yin and yang. At the time of death, the physical part of the body will turn into dust, and the electrifying part will turn to yin and yang. Positive will fly into the retention in the space formations. Those are very simple arguments, but also very important for the New Age spirituality tour guide to understand, to convey sympathy to those who want to experience spirituality. Particularly for people who think that death is the loss of everything, there is nothing left, so they do not believe there is a soul, no God, or Buddha or God at all. This type of people you do not have the ability to inspire them. Moreover, this person usually does not have the need to experience spirituality. So the best thing for this kind of people in the face of it, is that you just rely on science to communicate with them, and prove that the specific facts that science has discovered are enough. Another new perception about science that you need to know is that now that what science has found to be true, philosophers must respect that truth, not for some particular reason. Explain otherwise, thus losing the true value of philosophy. Because at present science and philosophy need to have a consistent connection, inseparable from each other. Also from this connected scientific and philosophical basis. So it's time for religion to need to connect with spirituality. If for some reason, religion separates itself from spiritual phenomena, it will become unique, that is, it has gone far from the truth that science has proven. Because science has shown that all those who have a human body, at the time of death, They all have a system of electricity, differing only in positive or negative charge. Dear uncles, relatives and young people of Fubai village. The above are basic arguments of modern science, which we need to know to protect the traditional spiritual cultural value of Fubai village in particular, and the traditional spiritual culture of the nation, Vietnam in general, in order to jointly promote the creations in the process of accumulation through experience, in order to maintain the national culture better and suitable for the new era of civilization. As for Fubai village, if we are supported by the superior government, research and establish an eco-tourism area combined with modern spirituality, it will be an honor for our village. Finally, I wish you and your family a new year filled with health, all the luck and happy families. Especially, the fight against the COVID flu epidemic was soon successful. Regards. Phuong Ngo and Phula, USA. December 28, 2021.